Welcome back to How Do You AI. In this episode, I'm joined with Tim Bratton, founder of Geyser Labs. We'll get into what Tim's exciting AI company does and how he's bringing AI into his world. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you, Raj. I'm excited to be here and share this with your audience. I've been doing patents and intellectual property for nearly 40 years. I have a number of them myself, done a number of startups, but what's happening now is incredibly exciting. It's probably the most exciting time for intellectual property, also being able to develop software quickly and making it so that the average person can do it and compete with some of these big corporations. So I'm going to just get into it. So one of the things that a lot of people don't know about is provisional patent applications. And provisional patent applications are designed for the average person. If you haven't filed a lot of patents before, and if you're below a certain income level, it's like currently, it'll change over time, of course, but about $280,000 a year, you can file as a micro entity, $65 to file your provisional patent application. And you can file an unlimited number of them until you start converting them into regular applications. And then you get 4, and then you have to go up to the next level, which is a little more expensive, but not that much more expensive, $130. But it's designed so that regular people can protect their intellectual property. So why? Well, why do you care? Well, a startup with a patent is 3 times more likely to be acquired or have a successful exit. And 58% of all venture funding goes to companies that have some kind of a patent pending, or have secured their intellectual property, and 76% a chance increase in getting a bank loan. So if you're serious about building a business, you definitely should figure out how to start filing provisional patents. So if you're a small entity, a micro entity, $65, and then that gives you about a year to decide what will you do with it. So you can continue to improve the product, raise money, test the market, and then, decide, do we convert this into a non-provisional? And a lot of people have very negative opinions of provisional patents because there aren't a lot of rules as to what's required to be in there, except it has to have a significant amount of disclosure that you can use to convert into the regular application. And that's where most people do a terrible job with their provisionals. And there's a lot of specific issues with it. However, we're doing something completely different, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But it now you get additional benefits to thinking through your technology before you ever even start vibe coding. So this is the new process that I'm using. I'll do market research with ChatGPT or, whatever you want to use. I create what's called the invention concept blueprint with AppGeyser. I feed that into AppGeyser.io, and this will take any technical document or a products requirement document, turn that into highly structured markdown files that you can then put into whatever IDE you like to use, Claude Code, CoWork, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the new workflow that I'm using. And essentially, you just start with your market research, and then you turn that into something very structured. So the invention concept blueprint, this is something that is high enough quality that an inventor, if they chose to, could file this with the USPTO, with the US Patent Office. We also use that to, we call that the ICB, the invention concept blueprint. And we also feed that into AppGeyser, and then that's what creates the markdown file. And then that's when you actually start your vibe coding. But the interesting thing is, once you do that, you've got a super structured markdown file, and it's not really vibe coding anymore. And you'll see the results of this because I did this earlier today, and then I've just got everything set up so I can easily do the screen shares. So that's the overview. That's the flow.
That's awesome.
shut
I'd love
down
to see more on the
PowerPoint.
0 to 1 story of how you went about it. What are the tools you used? I think that'd be really exciting. But this is awesome, Tim.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the 0 to 1 story. So I always thought that if you did it the right way, you could have something really exciting about drafting patents with AI. And I at first started with ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini, and it's okay, but there's a couple of problems with it. One of the problems is something that's going to be really big going forward is you can't prove that it was a human that invented it. And if a human did not invent it, if AI invented it, your patent will be invalidated. So there's a big problem there. And we used to do it by, having inventors notebooks and having somebody sign it and having a witness, but that you can't really do that anymore. So that was one of the things that you just can't do with the standard chatbot or, anything that's out there right now. And then the other thing is that it's still a lot of work if you're going to use Claude or if you're going to use ChatGPT, because it's not really designed to structure things in the way that you really need it to be structured. So it just came to me one day, and we actually started to build it on N8N, and it worked. We're like, this is pretty freaking awesome. And then ultimately we switched it into just more of a standard coding environment. But it was solving that problem. And for me, since I first came up with this in January, I have now filed 30 software provisional applications. Wow. So that's, how many per month? I don't know, like 6, 8 per month kind of a thing. And I never was able to do that. It would take me a month to do one in the past. So I do one, and then you couldn't get any work done while you're doing that. It is helpful and useful work, especially in this workflow. But now I'm talking like I come up with an idea at noon. I do the initial market research, which is what I'll show you here. And then I have a Gemini gem for this, and I'm okay to share that with your group if they're interested in something that helps structure your market research. So I can start and do that, and maybe for half an hour or so, and then feed that into AppGeyser to create my prompt. Then output my ICB, file my provisional patent application. And now it's like, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then we'll take the ICB and feed it into the MD generator, AppGeyser.io, and then put it into Claude Cowork. And, you'll have an app, and you'll have a patent, and it'll be a patent pending app like in an afternoon. It's remarkable. So that was my 0 to 1. It was a big step. So, all right. So here's what I started with. I started with, I also had a little bit of background on kind of what I wanted the architecture to be, but essentially I started with, here's what I want to do. I essentially, by the way, this patent that I filed is about the AppGeyser.io, taking a structured document and turning it into, or taking like a technical document and turning it into a structured prompt. So, and that's what AppGeyser.io does. So of course we have, that's patent pending all by itself now. So essentially do the market research, and the output from the market research, I then, and I won't go into that because I'm sure people know how to do that. You can either move it out of the way or close it. Okay, and this is Claude Code. We'll get back to this in a minute. This one, drag this one over here. It's going to be this one. Oh, I can close this. Okay. All right, so this is Patent Geyser. There's a lot of things you can do with it. I'm going to just right to where we are. So the very first thing is I took that prompt out of the market research I did on ChatGPT, and it essentially took the idea and just squeezed it into a very simple starting prompt for Patent Geyser. And then what it does is it'll restate the idea, and then it goes through this two-step process of advocate, which is your helper. He's kind of on your side. An examiner, he is like, this is not going to work. You haven't fully disclosed this. So it's like good cop, bad cop, which works incredibly well for AI. You have somebody whose job it is to say, yeah, this is awesome, and somebody else whose job it is to say, no, here's the problem. So that's the very, very first step. And then we go into inspect and refine. And the whole thing about an invention or an idea is, what's the core? What's the nugget? What is the thing that makes this kind of vague concept you have? What is the thing that makes it different, unique, novel, not obvious? And so we'll break it down. We break down all those ideas, and we have an AI helper here who guides you. He is instrumental, and he'll have a complete record of everything we've talked about in here. I'll try to find where we are in the flow. So we'll be able to go from the concepts, squeeze the concepts down, and then we go to the refinement stage. And this restates the idea. After you've added in the new parts, you've thought about the various concepts, and there's an opportunity to add some more in here. And the AI helper, who is with you every step of the way, can always ask him, hey, I'm here now. I need some help. What should I put into this next step? And he will guide you through it. Then there's another step where now we're going to refine it back down to the key concepts, is what we call them. And we're going to refine out the key concepts. And then, based on whatever your key concepts are, we do prior art research. And the prior art research is super helpful because that shows you what else is out there. What have people done before? And then we're going to analyze that. And in some cases, there are some close matches. Like in this case, there was a close match. And okay, I'm going to go to the next stage here because this just lists it all out. The white space. No, this one did do it here. Okay, good. So AppGeyser will give you some ideas on how you might change your technology to be different than the prior art. Maybe there's something that you're doing that they didn't do, and then explain that. And this is the fascinating thing, and the thing that I'm so excited about with AI. I think this is our next 0 to 1, is AI is pretty much smarter than we are already. It can now come up with concepts. And this is why I don't just do vibe coding anymore. Because if AI comes up with the code, if it creates the code, if it invents the solution, you can't get a patent on that. However, if it figures out what the problems are and then presents the different ideas and concepts and knowledge that you would have to solve the problem, and then teaches you what you need to know to solve the problem seconds before you need to solve it, you can be the inventor. And then that's what happens at this step, because AppGeyser says, hey, here's the prior art. Here's what your idea is. Say in your own words how you work around that. And if you don't really know, it'll teach you and it'll kind of guide you through it. We call that Socratic scaffolding, like, the Socratic conversations.
Yeah.
And so it'll kind of question you and then teach you what you need to know. And then you can record it as your idea because it is your idea. And it's just like having the world's best teacher teaching you exactly what you need to know. So that happens in the white space. And then we boil it back down to the key concepts. And these eventually will become the claims. We don't do it for provisional because it's not required for provisional. But we will use this when you ultimately decide to file your regular non-provisional. The key concepts essentially map right into claims. We do have one other component. As I mentioned earlier, the proof of human conception is going to be critical. And we don't have, a notebook and your lab partner to sign it or any of that kind of stuff. However, we do have this quiz where AppGeyser will remember what you've typed in, what interactions you've had, and then it will allow you to say, use what I previously answered, because it will ask you some questions. And if it feels like it has enough, then it'll go, oh, okay, it's certified. We can guarantee that you have come up with this yourself. And then we're almost done. So then we do something called the genus and species expansion, where you will have disclosed and worked through in this whole process one way to do the idea, implement the idea. But there are other ways to implement the idea, and it's kind of like if you could get a patent on a tree, that's great. But if you describe how to do 10, 20, 30 different kinds of trees, so those are the species, and then you can say, now I've described how to do all these different kinds of trees, I'm going to claim the forest because the forest is comprised of all these different kinds of trees. And so that's the genus is the higher level and the species are the individual implementations. And the strongest patents have like this bigger umbrella approach. So you start with that and it'll take your idea, expand it out, give you a lot more very specific implementations, especially around AI. Because one of the things that's so frightening for software about AI, and you've seen it happen in the stock market, is if you don't have your idea protected in a way that somebody might implement that in a chatbot, or the way they might implement it in some other AI native solution, or in some kind of an agentic agent swarm solution, somebody can just work around it. But if you've claimed that as one of your species, you have a chance at owning that whole category. And that's what we're working on here. So you do the genus species expansion, you generate diagrams. You just literally hit a button, it'll generate the diagrams. And then you download your ICB, the invention concept blueprint. You also can download your proof of human conception. And this is an encrypted document using RFC 3161 that allows you to present that in court. It'll be recognized as a document that has not been tampered with. So and it could become helpful, years from now if required. So now we've got we did our market research to start. We narrowed it down to a very specific technical implementation. Yep. We grabbed the invention concept blueprint and for our own record keeping, kept the proof of human conception.
Yep.
Now we're going to take that, and this is up right now at appgeyser.io. And appgeyser.io can take any kind of a technical document and turn it into a prompt for your favorite IDE, your favorite vibe coding tool. So let's start. Let's see how it goes. Let's make sure I grab the right document. Okay, so this is the one that I'm waiting for it to load. I got it. No, it was one that I pulled up. I'm actually looking for am I in the right place? Nope. Oh, that's an older one. That's an older one too. I want to get the right one. Although it might not matter. Let's give it a try.
Let's do it.
Okay, so this one was a provisional. That one was a provisional from a year ago.
How long does it take once you put in all the work to actually file your actual patent if you decide to go through with it? Once you have all these
So you have a year to file your regular application. They call it a non-provisional. Currently, when you go to do that, you'll want to hire a lawyer, and the lawyer will charge you whatever they charge you, and not inexpensive, probably $500 an hour, maybe $1,000 an hour. It'll probably take them, well, it shouldn't take them as long because the ICBs, the output from AppGeyser, is pretty close to a regular application, but it'll take them some time. So probably $5,000, and then the filing fees are the cheapest part. Probably it'll be like $300 to $500 in filing fees. Okay. So what I'm working on next is the next version of AppGeyser. So it's AppGeyser provisional, and then next I'm working on AppGeyser non-provisional, like regular. That will require a lawyer. But I'm looking at actually bringing a lawyer on staff to be able to go through and have, something that actually is lawyer approved. So that'll be the next step. I'm hoping to be able to dramatically reduce the cost of converting the provisional to a regular. As you can imagine, because I personally have 30 of them right now to convert. So I don't want to be spending $5,000 per. I want to be spending like $500.
Makes sense.
just for my own use,
Yeah.
more than
Yeah.
anything.
That's
All right,
great.
so we're super excited about AppGeyser, and this is free. Anybody could use this. It's up right now. Um, I have uploaded my technical document, and now if you have a specific so this will create the exact markdown you need for your specific application and whatever your specific tech stack is. So it's going to ask you some questions about your tech stack,
Okay.
but if you're not sure, you just go, I don't know.
Okay.
You choose it for me, and it'll do a fantastic job.
That's awesome.
It does currently tend to like for sell, so it's very likely. And someone is asking me about colors now. I'm like, no, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Whatever colors you want are probably good enough.
This is exciting.
And choosing pets at collaborative. So who is the primary target? So you do want to think about this. Who's my primary target?
Okay.
Oh, it's solo founders and indie hackers for sure. I'm empowering the little guy with this. We're leveling the playing field here. We want everybody to have $1 billion company.
That's the way to go.
How would the Chrome extension behave during final chat session? Okay, not sure. Sure. Okay, it's thinking. Okay, what else do we have? Here's a proposed setup. It runs on GPT Claude when it detects a high value idea. A subtle. Oh, this is so interesting. This idea was about how to this provisional application that I created was one that's about how to detect that it's user created and not AI created. So this is great. I have not built an app for that yet. I have it built into AppGeyser, but one of the original ideas was why isn't it just running your browser all the time? Or why can't you use it with ChatGPT? So it becomes like that kind of, the helper over your shoulder that's kind of watching, and it's like, oh, hey, that's a great idea. You might be able to get a patent on that. Okay.
Yeah.
And then here, not sure.
Well, that's a great idea. Like a lot of times we don't know what, there's so many ideas we talk through the day. So if there was an ambient voice agent that was listening and at the end of the day, it was giving you suggestions on what could be an exciting idea. I think that is really amazing, because the ambient voice agents can be very powerful in this scenario, like you said.
All right. So
And
here's
the best ideas
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I said sometimes the best ideas are when you're not really thinking about the idea, but it happens in your daily research or your conversations, or you're not really in the moment thinking about that specific idea. So I just thought it's a great idea you mentioned. So
thank you. All right. So So it has decided the best way to implement my patent idea is with a lightweight Chrome extension for solo founders and indie hackers using ChatGPT and Claude, run in a browser using the user's OpenAI Anthropic API key, monitors chats, and then lighting up a subtle badge when an invention-worthy idea is detected. Clicking the badge opens a sidebar displaying a structured patent claim drafted on the fly, alongside a quick 3-question PANU compliance checklist. So PANU test, it's a law. It was one of the cases about how only a person can be an inventor, not AI. So this PANU test is that's something that lawyers would talk about. Compliance checklist, certify human inventorship, finalize disclosures, copied. Okay, awesome. Let's get that MD file. All right, and then there are some other way. Okay. All right, yeah. So this is restating everything we've talked about. Here is the tech stack it's recommending: Vibe, React, TypeScript, Tailwind, Chrome, OpenAI. So this is all just regular stuff. Here are my answers. If I really wanted to go back in and change it, like, I want it to be red or whatever, I could change that in here, but everything else looks good. And here we go.
let's do it. How many applications have you created using AppGeyser?
It's brand new. It's literally brand new. Like 3.
Okay.
We
Nice.
just got it done.
And how long have you been working on this? Both Patient Geyser and AppGeyser. How long have you been working on these two applications?
I would say years.
Okay.
In part-time working on it for years. But like full-time for the last 6 months, I would say. All right, so here's the implementation plan, and it's going to be pretty specific, but also tells you exactly what to do and how you're going to deploy it and what you do step by step. This is the markdown file. So this is the prompt that we're going to feed into, in this case, I'm going to use Claude Cowork. So let's pull that up. Now, I don't think I have any tokens left today. I burned through a lot of tokens already. And I've been using Fable, and Fable burns through tokens so fast. One prompt is like 10% of your tokens gone, but it's super. All right, so this is the one I did earlier today, and I uploaded the MD file, which you can see here. Hold on a second. Let's drag that over here. Let's see what that structured prompt looks like. So this is the output from AppGeyser, and you can see here, this one, it says you should be using Supabase, OpenAI, and Vercel. This is the it's the one that describes AppGeyser, and that is exactly how AppGeyser is built. It's just that is a tech stack for AppGeyser. It mentions the vision, which is helpful. It is very specific about the core experience and the features, very specific about the tech stack, very specific about the architecture. And if you were vibe coding and you just kind of went back and forth on these things, it might take you hours. It might take you days, because maybe you're fixing things and then other things break. But to start with a super structured prompt that is exactly what you want is a massive time saver. All right, so this is that full MD file, and then that is the one that I uploaded to Cowork earlier today.
Okay.
And it ran for about 20 minutes, and then it created all the files.
Awesome.
So then we have a zip file that we can download and then put it in your local environment to test it, of course. I don't know if it would work right out of the box. That would be super interesting to find out. But it might. I don't know. So this is brand new, and that's the process.
Thank you. I think this is very helpful. I know that once you do download the zip, you can open it in VS Code, or you can just open the Claude Code, and then you can always iterate over it from there on. If there are gaps, if there are issues, if there are things. So this is very helpful, I think, to have it go from the idea and patent to go to AppGeyser, create the MD file, then go to Claude Code, and really create your whole project in a more structured way, because the MD file that's coming out is really brainstormed and it has evolved based on some of the suggestions you gave and some of the best practices I'm assuming you guys have put inside the app, the app workflow. So this is great. And like, thank you for sharing so much about all of this. What have been some of the challenges as you worked for the last 6 months?
Well, probably the biggest challenge has been navigating around the trap of unauthorized practice of law. So the lawyers do not like the fact that you used to have to spend $30,000 to get a provisional or to get a patent application, and now you can get better patent applications, and it's like hundreds of dollars. It's not. They don't like it, and they're fighting it. There are other companies that are doing what I'm doing, but they require a lawyer to be in the process, and that's because this unauthorized practice of law is such a big deal. So it's interesting to see how this is going to shake out. So what else? Everything else was pretty straightforward. Like, it's remarkable how well there was a big a kind of a big thing I had to go through before I came up with this idea of, I call it the generative lock and the Socratic scaffold. So I realized I could not have AI just solve the problem and write the patent. because AI can't be an inventor. However, it can still, like right before it's about to come up with something that is an idea, it cannot share that with the human. It has to tell the human, hey, have you thought of this? What do you think about this? Have you considered that there might be some other ways to do this? And then it teaches you what you need to know. And so the generative lock is for it to stop and do not give you the answer, but instead give you kind of like an open book test where it can teach you what you need, and then you can come up with the answer in your own words. And I think that was the hardest part, and I think it's also the most exciting part, because a lot of people are saying, oh, AI, it makes you stupid because you don't have to think anymore. I think there are a lot of people who use it that way and they don't think anymore. However, I think there are going to be a lot of people that realize this is the world's best teaching tool that has ever been created, because it'll come up with things that humans can't even think of yet, and it will teach you what they are if you want to learn. Like it's not as easy as just having it, hey, have AI do it for me. But that was a hard thing to break through. But I think now that we've done it, I think it's going to be the most valuable thing, and maybe not just for patents and things like that, but for learning. Like this whole notion of epistemology, which is knowledge, and pedagogy, which is learning. I think we're pushing both of them, to levels that nobody has ever seen before. And if you can have these like massively, 400 IQ or whatever it's going to be, machines that have all this knowledge teach you in a way that, it used to take 10,000 hours to achieve mastery in something. But what if you can achieve mastery in minutes? I mean, it's not really happening yet. Patent Geyser is just like a baby step in that process, but I think it's quite likely, and that's super exciting.
That is amazing. What are some of the mistakes you feel like you've made using white tools and AI, and you feel like any others that are starting or using should not get into that trap?
Well, there are times where I feel like it's kind of spinning its wheels, where because I'm not clear, because I didn't give it a structured prompt, because I'm kind of like vague and not really sure. You can waste a massive amount of time. And then, it's like, I want you to move the button. And then it moves the button and it breaks 37 other things. And, I think it all boils down to highly structured prompts. And that's by far, once you start, and also a lot of people think of it like, it's my friend, it's my helper or whatever. And it's not really, it's a machine. And you start thinking about it, I am the operator of the machine. And if I operate the machine in a very structured way and give it really clear and specific and detailed prompts, it will work 10 times better.
Great share. Thank you, Tim, for that. What specific industry do you think this applies the most, right? I know like it's generally applicable, but if you were to say, what is that one industry where there's a lot of patents filed and this is going to be very impactful what you're building right now?
Well, I think software. Software is, for what we're doing right now, I think everybody who is writing software should be trying to protect their intellectual property, especially right now, because it's like the early days of the internet. People are coming up with new things every single day. And one of my favorite patents, by the way, you probably did some SEO at some point.
Yes,
with the backlinks.
Absolutely.
Larry Page in 1998 filed a patent on backlinks.
Oh, wow.
And, he was a kid at Stanford and he came up with this idea, and there were already massive public companies that were already dominating search, like Yahoo, Excite, Ink2Me, Alta Vista. Like there were Ask Jeeves. Like Ask Jeeves had a big IPO. It's like so many companies that had so much money, and then there's like two kids out of Stanford, and they had a patent on backlinks, counting backlinks. Like if you count backlinks, that's way better than, how many times does it have the keyword on the page? That makes sense. And it was such a strong patent
Yeah.
nobody could copy them. And it was so obviously strong, nobody even tried because their lawyers all said, if you copy that, they're going to sue you. So do something, figure out how to get more keywords on there, or, whatever the answer was. And as a result, from 1998 to 2004, Google went public in 2004.
Yeah.
But they had that 6 years to develop their search engine without fear of the competitor shutting them down. So it feels to me like that again. And the entrepreneurs, the vibe coders, the hackers or whatever, if they just think like, oh, I should just spend, a few extra minutes and get this patent, and then I get my very, very structured prompt, and then I'll do my app. I think it changes the way that the little guy can show up in the marketplace.
That is, that is, I think, the dream that a lot of small businesses and the struggle too. So, I think thank you for, solving this. And how far along do you think this journey you are in, and, how many
Just
iterations have you done?
getting started.
Oh, great, great. If it is, if there's a nut you're trying to crack, or, for any audiences that are listening, or, is there anything we can help you with?
I would love to have some really great customer testimonials and case studies. I've been running some challenges. So I just did one last week. It was a 5-day challenge, and the people that went through it loved it, and they filed patents. So
Nice.
they're patent pending now.
That is amazing. Thank you, Tim. I mean, for helping us understand like the journey of patterns is something I wasn't aware, and for anybody that wants to be on that journey, looks like it's great to have something that you can go on this journey with the platform that you built. Both Patent Geyser and AppGeyser are live. And
Yep.
Tim, if you want to give the domains, and I'll add them to the end of the podcast on when I share this, but. Thank you again. I appreciate you, and again, it was great having you on the show.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, and yeah, I like your show. I'm glad to be on it.
Thank you.